It was 9 o'clock in the evening. Everybody was sitting on the couch in front of the TV. There was Richard, Brian, Jenny, and Doreen, the babysitter. The telephone rang. "Maybe it's your mother," said Doreen. She picked up the phone. Before she could say a word, a man laughed hysterically and hung up. "Who was it?" asked Richard. "Some nut," said Doreen. "What did I miss?" At 9:30, the telephone rang again. Doreen answered it. It was the man who had called before.
"I'll be there soon,"
he said, and he laughed and hung up. "Who was it?" the children asked. "Some crazy person," she said. About 10 o'clock, the telephone rang again. Jenny got to it first. "Hello," she said. It was the same man.
"One more hour,"
he said, and he laughed and hung up. He said 1 more hour. What did he mean? asked Jenny. "Don't worry," said Doreen. "It's somebody fooling around." "I'm scared," said Jenny. About 10:30, the telephone rang once more. When Doreen picked it up, the man said,
"Pretty soon now,"
and he laughed. "Why are you doing this?" Doreen screamed, and he hung up. "Was it that guy again?" asked Brian. "Yes," said Doreen. "I'm going to call the operator and complain." The operator told her to call back if it happened again, and she would try to trace the call. At 11 o'clock, the telephone rang again. Doreen answered it.
"Very soon now,"
the man said, and he laughed and hung up. Doreen called the operator. Almost at once, she called back. "That person is calling from a telephone upstairs," she said. "You'd better leave. I'll get the police." Just then, a door upstairs opened. A man they had never seen before started down the stairs towards them. As they ran from the house, he was smiling in a very strange way. A few minutes later, the police found him there and arrested him.
I was visiting twin cousins when I was about 10. Near their house there's a steep hill leading to some woods. The twins, their younger brother, my brother, and I all go outside to play. We were in the woods sword fighting with tree branches when my younger cousin says that he saw something moving behind the trees. We all stop and look where he pointed. A couple 100 feet away, we see what looks like a man with orange hair, ducking behind some trees. We didn't mess around, and started yelling about a stranger and ran back to the house. The run back up the hill was especially terrifying, since I was too afraid to look back and see where he was. My dad and my uncle both went out into the woods to look for him after we told them what happened. He was nowhere to be found. My dad wanted to call the cops, but my uncle didn't want to bother them over something stupid. Fast forward a few years later back at my house. My dad had bought me and my brothers an ATV. I was still a little young, but he still let me ride it. We have 50 acres of land, with 10 of them being woods at the end. I do little loops up and down the property. I go in one side of the woods, and out the other usually. See the picture. Right as I was about to drive into the woods, I see the same man with orange hair across the field, standing by a tree near the exit to the woods. I slam on the handbrake and turned around as fast as I possibly could. I went back home immediately.
It was 4:52 as I turned to see the time on my alarm clock. It was strange, never had I woken up this early before. As I leant back to stare at my plain, colourless ceiling, it felt as if I was drifting in and out of sleep, not entirely sure if I was asleep or awake. Before I knew it, I was tossing and turning, checking the time every 15 minutes. It was winter time, nearly Christmas, and I was freezing in my lonely one-story house in the middle of the country. I was up shivering and looking around for my dressing gown in the blackness, feeling the hairs on my body rise as they're attacked by the cold. I find the fluffy coat and wear it as I get back into bed. It felt so good to be warm again. Just as I close my eyes, sinking into my bed, I hear a slight knock coming from downstairs. I assume it's nothing, and my tired mind is just playing tricks on me. Then I hear it again, clear as day, only slightly louder than last time. Yes, it was the door. I was positive since I know the sound so well. What is someone doing knocking at my door at 6:58 a.m? I had to be up in a few hours for work, so I decided to go down and check first. I see the door right ahead of me, and I can hear the wind whistling outside like a manic church choir. I see something in the corner of my eye from the window, and I realise it's snow. We hadn't received snow in a number of years in winter. I was shocked but delighted. I was always the excitable snow type. As I turned back to the door to check through the peephole, I didn't see anyone there. This confused me. I was so sure it was a knock from my front door, so I dismissed it as some kids trying to play a prank or something. I swirled 180 degrees and started making my way back up the stairs. I was very relieved, and I wasn't very scared as I wasn't fully awake, and I was sure it was just some stupid kids. By now, I could barely feel my toes and decided it was time to get them again. As I got to the top of the stairs, within sight of my comfortable bed, I suddenly heard the sound of a door opening. I turned to see my front door completely wide open, inviting in the dark, cold winter night. Fear started to consume me as I began questioning how it had opened. I slowly stepped down onto the top step, peering down to the bottom floor. Finding the courage to walk, I took each step as cautious as the next, expecting to see my worst fear stood there in the doorframe. I looked around the corner and saw nothing. No one, just a streetlight. Was I going mad? I grabbed my phone from my pocket, but it had gone. I'm sure I left it in there before bed. Confusion gripped me and I started to question whether this isolation was driving me crazy. Then I hear very faintly, "Is that my phone from upstairs? How did it get there?" As I got 3 steps up, I see something which froze me in terror. A shadow hovering by my bedroom door. I panicked and slowly backed down, trying not to make a sound, in case I would alert whoever was up there. I silently tiptoed down to the back door to find my phone. As I grabbed the phone, I heard the bottom stair creak, and I turned around to see the terrifying shadow turn the corner to the kitchen, within view of me. I opened the door to the closet right beside me and hid, begging that they wouldn't find me. The outline was huge, like a man, but something looked different about it. His face didn't look natural, covered under his hood. It was throwing things around, messing up the place, as if it was looking for something. It turned around and started going back up the stairs towards my bedroom. It felt like a day in that closet. until I finally had the bravery to open the doors. I never understood why that person was in my house that night, or what they were looking for. But one thing I know for sure is before bed I always need to lock my door.
If you have not seen the first part of the collaboration between me and Jack Hunter, please check in the description for the link. Also, just remember, fear keeps us going.